Just gonna get this ready here. Let's see here. Okay. Alrighty then. 4 minutes already. Wow. Took me 4 minutes to do all that. It's a long ass time. That's 2 hours ago. For anybody trickle in or whatever. Hopefully everybody so from what Holden Colada and others have said is took me 4 minutes, about 5 minutes actually, to get everything hooked, go back and forth and everything else. Takes a long time. Hopefully everyone's having a good morning, noon, night where everybody is. Trump took office, and he said yesterday he was gonna divulge how Martin Luther King got killed and stuff like that, including JFK, RFK, And so he said this before. He said this before that he was going to do it. And he told that to RFK Jr. because he was heavy on getting this stuff out. And the thing is, including I know personally as well from others that have talked about it, is that it involves, of course, the mob, the mafia, elements of the CIA, and the military and military-industrial complex. When it comes to how far it reaches and how it's planned, you're talking about, from what I heard, of course, brainwashing programs that the CIA military had, like Manchurian Candidate, and how you could implant memories into someone like Lee Harvey Oswald and not know who they are, kill JFK or whatever, and then, they kill someone, they know it happens until after the fact. When Lee Harvey Oswald, he said he didn't do it, but he did. And there are other shots from like other people, stuff like that. And if you look back and do your research on what happened, grassy knoll, stuff like that, JFK and everything, it doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense that it's just one shooter. It does not. And I remember my dad actually met JFK, Cuban Missile Crisis. My dad had access to nuclear arms back then, there in Florida, at SAC, Strategic Air Command, and stuff. And he had access to the keys, stuff like that and everything. So I remember how it was said that military brass was pissed off at JFK for not helping, CIA Planet Covert Group, Bay of Pigs, and everything. How Cuban freedom fighters were trained here off Florida, Central Intelligence Agency, and stuff like that, and how we told them, the freedom fighters, Cuban freedom fighters, we'd help them, we'd back them up with their support. We did not, and JFK was not going to do that. And they wanted a nuclear war and stuff like that. And it was only the only reason why we're not having a nuclear fallout right now from, having 62, 63 is because it was only JFK, from what I hear. Military admirals and generals wanted a nuclear strike on Cuba and Russia. It was only JFK alone, from what I hear from these sources in the military, stuff like that, that prevented all-out nuclear war. And people have no idea how close we got to nuclear war. And how no one has any idea how devastating it would be either. No idea whatsoever of incineration, even back those nuclear weapons, hydrogen bombs, thermonuclear bombs, how they've evolved. Robert, the thing is, the mob was pissed off at both JFK and RFK. Joseph Kennedy, the father of John Kennedy and Robert, the mob helped swing them in, helped swing John F. Kennedy into presidency. They rigged a lot of that stuff. They told people, paid people, vote for them, and that's how JFK won the presidencies, from mob influence, and how they could, back then, the mob controlled a lot of stuff with Teamsters, unions, and stuff like that. And today, they still have hand in some of that stuff as well. Not as much. They don't have as much power due to RICO laws. But back then, they got him into office and stuff. And there's you don't get anything for free from the mob. Nothing is free with the mafia. They help you out with something, you gotta pay back. You gotta give back to the mob. That's the way that is. And when JFK and RFK had these commissions where they were going after the mob, that was the worst thing that they could ever do, especially when the mob got them into office. And of course, Joseph Kennedy, he was a part of the mob and stuff. And the mob thought with JFK and RFK that, they would get kickbacks, they would leave, the mob alone. Instead, they did a total 180, and stuff like that. It went after them. And that's a huge no-no. So you have the mob that's after John F. Kennedy. You have the military that hated John F. Kennedy. And you had other outside forces, Russia and stuff like that. You have all these entities that want JFK dead for these different reasons. And we have different mind control programs. We have psychic programs, stuff like that. And Lee Harvey Oswald was killed. He never had his day in court. He never had his say. It's funny how the mob, Jack Ruby, who was part of the mob, he killed Lee Harvey Oswald. And this goes very, very deep. Even Donald Trump, I believe it was RFK, I believe, he said that he was too scared to do it because all the parties involved. He said Donald Trump told RFK Jr. that he didn't want to do that because of so many parties that were involved. It was too scary. So what changed Trump's mind now? What has changed? If anything. Martin Luther King, there's a lot of sickness in that assassination. You have a lot of white supremacist groups and stuff like that to not want him in there. I believe the CIA was also involved with that, maybe FBI, local law enforcement, just like with JFK and RFK, where even local law enforcement was involved in keeping stuff, evidence out, telling people to shut up about the truth. And here we have UFOs. And there's a reason why I believe Trump will probably not have a disclosure. It's because Oil companies could go bankrupt. Coal could go bankrupt. You have world economy that could go bankrupt with certain things. You have Elon Musk, where you have alien technology. It would trump all of Elon Musk's technology. Though, like I said, Elon Musk could make these things safer. Safer technology, because ET technology and energy could give us cancer. It's very volatile to humans, where ETs can handle it, and humans can't. So honestly, if you could re-engineer some of the stuff, then that's a good thing. And it says right here that Stephen Greer, Dr. Stephen Greer, he said that he gave Trump and his team, all this evidence of UFO stuff. And there's a huge reason why they're not going to want UFO stuff out. It also destroys most world religions as well. Because human-based religion is not, they're different gods and stuff like that, and not just one and everything. And you don't need religion to go to heaven. You don't need it. Anybody can get there. There's a heaven and hell. I've seen them. But there are other dimensions. And a lot of religions will be broken with disclosure. But we have a lot to learn. We have, telepathy, we have psychic abilities and stuff like that. There's so much out there to learn. So, as Stephen Greer, said, President Trump has UFO UAP disclosure executive orders ready to sign. Dr. Stephen Greer just met with Trump officials. This was like yesterday, the day before. I see the drafts. They're real. UFO crash retrievals, anti-gravity, yada, 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 telepathy, reverse engineering technologies that we have as well. 2 days before, Air Force veteran Jake Barber stepped forward about the first ever UFO retrieval footage. We saw that. I did this last night. Stephen Greer said he first met Barber 2 years ago. Special Forces embedded with a major aerospace company, that'd be Lockheed Martin, stuff like that. Or another one, SAIC. Important part of it came out. If you take out all the other noise, is that he had a group of other people getting. It wasn't just Barber, but other guys in his unit came out and said the same thing, that this is retrievals that happened. I've known about this for 30 plus years. So, been involved with retrieving. We have lots of teams out there. I know of at least 4 retrieval teams that we've had. Disclosure developed, Jake Barber's team, so a few Um, Original plan was that we're going to be a collection of all that hard evidence operations. Yesterday, revealed DC met with Bruce. Yesterday, David Greer revealed he was in DC meet with members of the new Trump administration. There's a higher responsibility to get the truth out there in a way that isn't harmful to the future human, and I think it should say of human consciousness. That's what it's about, really. Dr. Greer advised specifically against doing a show like Jake Barber did with News Nation. Why? These guys are their own people, they have their own ideas. This is the tribalism that gets me very upset and pissed off in a lot of ways, where each person that knows about UFOs, stuff like that, and knows about, the psychic abilities, telepathy, they want to control information. Even Stephen Greer here. I don't have anything to do with these people for a reason. I know what I know from my own experiences. I know about this before they did, because of my own experiences. So it isn't going to matter what others say, so-called experts. I've had my own experiences. So I go for my own experiences, in what I know, what I've felt, what I've seen. And the tribalism with different UFO knowers or people on the inside, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter. I just put out I just use them because people want, they use them as reliable sources and stuff like that. It's ridiculous. The tribalism in the UFO community and how splintered it is. These guys are all people that have their own ideas. We consult, we discuss, we have differences, and that's how humans are. Well, it's how ETs are too. ETs do have have had wars of their own. They don't all get along either. I know that. You learn of different kinds of capture that could twist the disclosure into a false flag operation that does long-term damage to human consciousness. And I do, he says, like with alien abduction, that's all fake, and that's done by humans. That is not true. Those are done by real ETs. Now, cattle mutilations, on the other hand, the U.S. military is involved with that. Contractors are involved with that. And that also goes to bioengineering, human biological engineering, special forces, create super troopers or healing capabilities, stuff like that, that I've heard, to make superhuman soldiers with healing properties that cows have, where they can heal a lot faster, and incorporate that to human usage and stuff like that. I go with what I know. I don't give a fuck about what others say. I don't. Thank God I know what I do. Let's see. So, let's see. It says different capture, disclosure, false flags, and stuff. false narrative stories. There's academic capture on a subject where there's undue influence to alter the results of a study. There's media capture, there's government, there's gaslighting. Yes, there is. And the government wants it for the military-industrial complex to say that this is, Russia, China, stuff like that and everything. That's only part of it. Okay, they have their own re-engineered technologies and stuff like that, as much as we do. And there's ETs that are doing this, extraterrestrials, and their drones, their technologies, stuff like that, alive technologies, that are living technologies, stuff like that. Say it's new and it's shocking, and it's not. Let's see. Dr. Greer alleged he can confirm that the pearlescent white eggs and craft in a video of Jake Barber was likely non-human intelligence or NHI, non-human intelligence. There are definitely small extraterrestrial life forms that are on the order of 3.5 feet tall, that travel in these very pearlescent white craft. These unusual material, they're very unusual material, and they're not very big, 20-25 feet across. We know that is a type of NHI craft, non-human intelligence. Now, let's go here. Jake Barber told News Nation's Ross Coulthart it was confirmed to him by ranking members of the UAP task force. The egg UFO they recovered was in fact NHI, and it was not a unique experience. Okay. Ross Coulthart said the X-shaped UFO captured in 2015 by Navy pilots. Yeah. But Dr. Greer alleged the craft in 2015 UFO was really man-made. So there's different those have been created on purpose because they can engage in false flag operations with those man-made craft. And the thing is, we do have man-made re-engineered craft. So, Holden, Colada, the thing is, people are saying, well, I thought it was this. I thought that was NHI. And this, now you're saying, stop the BS. Do one thing at a time. We have both. So, the thing is, just now waiting for President Trump's signature. I've seen them, they're real. UAP or Chino crash was not likely. News Nation said, because I want to have everything here. I gotta make sure, get into the nitty-gritty of the situation here. And this is what he's talking about, false flags and stuff like that, where different videos is not the true video of the NHI versus using another video that's not a NHI. And the reason for that is because he could be put in prison. Barber could be put in prison. Okay? Just because Barber came out and signed his thing with the Inspector General, his grievance and stuff like that. So he can come out with disclosure. Doesn't mean that he could put out all this alien stuff. What it means he could do is just say, hey, I can say a certain amount of things. Yes, we do retrievals and stuff like that. We've done retrievals of NHI, non-human intelligence. But they'd have to put in a human reverse engineered craft or drone, whatever, instead of using the real thing. Why? Because if he does that, he can be thrown in prison for at least 25 years to life. And I was thinking, what I didn't say in the video is that, I don't think I said it, it's like, how come is he not in prison? How come he's able to show this? If it's NHI, it doesn't make sense because there's certain things you can get away with as a whistleblower and saying stuff, but you cannot produce the pictures, which is total bullshit because politicians are lying about this. And intelligence and everything, the corruption is real with this. Let's see. And okay, so saying that, this could be the human part. And like I said, people don't know. You cannot talk about everything. I know it's because my father, he did top secret things at different installations. When they wanted to throw me away into a mental institution for knowing stuff about UFOs when I was a kid, my father and a few others said, hey, you can't do that. UFOs could be real. And they asked my father, they said, well, what do you say UFOs could be real? And he said, well, I can't talk about that. That's classified. He said, I signed stuff, and if you know anything about the law, about signing these things in military or NDAs, it's a felony federal offense. You get 25 years to life for talking or putting real stuff out, real video out. Now, the whistleblower thing in all of this is that you can talk about certain elements of what you've been around. But there are certain things, especially pictures and video, that you can't disseminate. If you do, you're facing life in prison, at least 25 years. It's like if you put out a picture, that's 25 years. You put out another picture, that's another 25 years. It's an add-on charge. This is what people don't know. And now, me, I complain, I do bitch and complain and say, do it anyway. Put that stuff out there. The thing is, I need to shut my stupid mouth as well. I never signed any NDA. I know people on the inside, stuff like that. I've had my own experiences, see stuff, but I've had some videos and stuff like that. Crappy. But that's the thing. I don't have to worry about all that prison time. They do. So, they say that this could be human. Like I said, another person in a similar operation hasn't come forward, sent that in. So what he's saying, Dr. Stephen Greer, and I have respect for these guys. I got respect for Stephen Greer. I got respect for Lou Elizondo. At the same time, everybody, this very tribal. It's very tribal with these people. And it shouldn't be. We need, it needs to be focused about getting this stuff out. You got, some people that want certain amount of things secret. And I say pretty much just about get everything out. But of course, that's going to involve bankruptcy of a lot of world power businesses. That would be why Trump is not going to fully disclose or won't disclose. Is because there's an economic effect, a polar shift, where there's no need for oil, there's no need for electricity, and we'd have unlimited energy unless that causes cancer to us. It has to be refined. And that's where Elon Musk could come and stuff like that. Come 100 trillionaire. Oh my God, trillionaire. Yeah. Oh God. How money sickens this. Projects have retrieved. Yeah, multiple operators who've been in projects where they have retrieved virtually the identical type of NHI craft at separate locations. We have at least, like I said, at least 4 different teams, special operations teams, that operate on a global scale that retrieve this. The U.S. is the biggest country superpower that's keeping UFOs a secret. Okay. Jake Barber's testimony was important because he confirmed ongoing operations, multiple operational sites. We have Edwards, we have Area 51, we have Area 52, we have multiple different secret installations of DUBs, DERPs, deep underground military installations. We have secret locations at national parks that we use. We have installations inside mountains and deep below, miles and miles, like 9-10 miles, up to 9-10 miles underground. We have undersea bases as well, where we keep technology. Crazy stuff underwater. We have Catalina. We have offshore Vandenberg. We have Hawaii. We have Puerto Rico. We have places off of Florida and other parts of the Atlantic, the Pacific. We have, let's see, Solomon Islands, is that part of it as well? Guam, a lot of places. Okay, remote view. Everybody's heard of the CIA remote viewing program, and that's part of using psychics to get non-human intelligence craft as well. Whether there's non-human intelligence, aliens inside those is a different thing. Okay. Michael Mazzola. How could a super advanced ETI step into this trap? Extraterrestrial intelligence. Dr. Greer, because they're not gods, they're people, they make mistakes. That is fact. Now, what is our kill rate, meaning our attempts to kill them? How often does it happen? Very, very low. This is the thing. It's kind of crazy, but there are bad and good ETs, which I keep on saying. We do need to find a way to defend ourselves from, say, abduction, stuff like that. Thing is, whatever technology we have, we're still like monkeys. We are still very much like monkeys. We are apes, chimpanzees, compared to gods that are hundreds of thousands of years ahead of us. And it's not even technology, it's something that transcends technology of what they have. So we could get some of these UFOs down. They can always make other tech or things, other toys, and they could just warp it back on us, hit us back with something. So it's very dangerous to take these things on. It's pretty much like monkeys throwing rocks and little spears at them. And once in a while, when these spears is going to work and take them down, if we have like ray guns or something like that, microwaves, rays, or whatever you use, they can find ways to disable our devices and use it against us later on. Anyways. Dr. Greer, cousin of Officer Humans, kill rate. One of the sites I was over, Jake Barber's helicopter, he said, this one site, we bring down 1 or 2 a year. A lot more than that are embedded in transdimensional space, not state space, though it is a state. Interdimensional is different states. Time, transdimensional space, time that are around Earth. Okay. Dr. Greer revealed that he was offered $2 billion in 1990 to defect from his mission of peaceful disclosure. They knew that we figured out the Rosetta Stone of how to contact, that would be psychic. Stuff like that. And we have a lot of psychic programs. Dr. Greer alleged the UFO dogfight discussed on that show was no such thing at all. No, those were 2 NHI craft. It was an extraterrestrial craft and a man-made one. I can believe that. Out of Lockheed Skunk Works that was deployed to intercept and knock it down. I can believe that. I can believe that. They do not want us civilians to be involved with this technology, though we have a right to. You have psychopaths in our government, in contractors. I do not like our government in any way. I don't. Because of keeping secrets like this, and they constantly lie to people. There's reasons why I do, all right? I know a lot of stuff most others don't about the corruption of our government. A lot of stuff. And they don't work to protect the people. And with contractors in the military, they want to use this technology. It's not even technology. It's consciousness. This is magic. This is magic. And this is why we named it magic in classified documents. This is magic with a J, not with a G, though. Magic. MJ. All right, majestic. This is majestic. This is magic. It's not really technology. You talk about psychics, you talk about remote viewing being used to communicate with off-world extraterrestrial intelligence and stuff like that. Interdimensional, otherworldly people. Okay? So I can believe that. Play on. We've seen this thousands of times, literally, over the last 35 years. Okay. Let's go show more. Let's just get everything in here at once. Dr. Greer says, those hard drives, those tough books that weren't missing, I know exactly what's on them. Mazzola, can you tell us, Dr. Greer, it was very detailed information about these operations dealing with NHI and man-made craft. at these test ranges that he was assigned to. Yeah. I want to get into all this. I do. Let me see here. I want to leave. I want everything here. Because there's stuff that I know as well. Let me see. The most dangerous mistake the show made, Dr. Greer said. It's his opinion. Everybody's going to have their truth, and everybody's going to have their side. The most dangerous mistake of that show, Dr. Greer said, was the facile and incorrect association with personal injury and radiation with NHI craft. Let me be blunt. This is bullshit. An interstellar vehicle is not using... No, they don't use other power. Let's see. Interstellar vehicle is not using nuclear power plant. Yes, that's true. The ones that are using nuclear power plants would be ours. That's true, though it's not all nuclear. It's not all nuclear. So it's re-engineered, but I get what he's saying. He's saying that in human terms that so other people that don't know what's being used can understand it. He's using similarities, stuff that humans can understand. Let us see. Of course, Jake Barber says we weren't suited up. They were, yeah. And if they knew it was radioactive, they would have told us. I hate to tell it, but all the Agent Orange victims of Vietnam, if the command structure in those corporations and military really care, they don't care. Military doesn't care about so. They don't. It's just the way it is. I hate to be cynical or offensive, I should say, because it is offensive kind of place. If people get burned and killed and injured to get it done quickly, they will do it. Facts. We use napalm. We use lots of napalm. And the thing is, I do take issue with this because obviously, even doctor said with Barber that he had nuclear, he has, cancer, type of cancer, or nuclear radiation that happened to him. The energy that ETs use is deadly to humans. So he's right and he's wrong. Greer is right and wrong with this. This is the reason why we have to re-engineer this. This is one reason where Elon Musk can come into play and make this safer. Though I don't like the BS where capitalist pigs are to make us pay for something that should be free. Electricity should be free. Water should be free. This stuff was free until taxes took over in the 1900s and 1930s and stuff like that. Of course, we didn't have electricity all back then, but I'm just saying where taxation happened, taxes started during the Civil War. Before that, we didn't have that. We didn't have that. And then state taxation happened in the later 1900s and stuff. Let me see. Yeah, I do take issue. Like I said, alien technology, alien tech, or magic, alien magic that propels the propulsion of these craft, the energy of these craft, will kill us. They can kill us. They create, they do something with our immune system, our blood, and everything else, our blood cells, they damage it. And it can kill us. So what he's saying is right, and it's not, but we're not done yet. Let me see. The biggest secret these covert programs are trying to cover up is not that ETs are real and they visit us, he alleges, Dr. Greer alleges. The big secret is that we have those technologies. Well, partly. you call into question with religion, because then you have, the Bible stuff doesn't talk about this. Then you go to Ezekiel, where it talks about wheels in the sky and not to trust otherworldly beings and stuff like that. Kind of alludes to it, kind of. But it doesn't go into it. It doesn't talk about other, about ETs. It doesn't. And how that's kind of a different video. Let's move on here. The big series we have, these technologies, that's one. That, like I said, that's one part. And you have psychopaths. You call them sociopaths, I call them psychopaths because they're sickos. They want to control this and keep it away from civilians when we should have use of it to go off-world and join a higher consciousness, a higher reality, because the one that we're in right now this is exactly real. It is and it isn't. But let's see. Test ranges where Jake Barber has been operational probably was like Area 51, Area 52. There's a lot of different military bases, different areas, zip codes, stuff like that. It's not just one, but it's like some of these areas, it's like a collection of different military and secret installations and stuff like that. They're assigned these zones or one huge grid, like the west, southwest to a certain point, then their team another, or they could be assigned a whole area. Then you have another team that's assigned to international areas, other countries like South America, Brazil, Iran, which we took a ET craft from Iran and got it from there. So powers that be in the covert programs want everyone to believe that everything that goes up in the night there is alien, is it? No. They want everything hushed up. Everything. So let's go into this here. Dr. Greer. Jake Barber was talking about this beautiful, most spiritual experience he had when he was retrieving an 8 gone, octagonal shaped object with some non-human intelligence associated with it. They go to a commercial break, and then they cut to where he's telling them the story of picking up this crate, not the 8 gone. All right, that was already picked up. I saw that as well, where they went from here to there a bit, edits. And that's for time allotment, I believe. He had no idea what was in when he got there. That's what gave him radiation sickness and poisoning. That's what was in the crate. Was it an HI? It absolutely was. Of these other misguided uses of a nuclear miniature propulsion energy system that went bad, and that's his opinion, though. I mean, alien tech is also cancerous to our health. This is the thing. People that have been in contact with extraterrestrial craft, there is stuff that can happen to your tissue, your bodies. And Greer believes that abductions are humans playing dress up, play cosplay, put on alien suits, become 3.5-foot figures, and abduct them, does sexual stuff to people, extracting semen, stuff like that. He thinks that that is human. That's not true. Our technologies, our reverse engineering, and even ET craft can cause cancer. Let's see. What was given radiation? So it was in the crate, the sky nuclear miniature propulsion system. This is where you have to be able to create the mosaic. We have to create disclosure mosaic, and disclosure mosaic has to take into account the totality of the intelligence and information that were gathered from hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people like Barber. This is the thing. Everyone has their opinions on stuff. Trying to autocorrect what they think would happen. I mean, he says that he knows exactly what was taken. Greer says this and stuff like that. I want to go to a show instead of going through all of this, because I have his show. I have a show, and I was gonna put that up, but I'm going through this instead. Here on, it was admitted in the show is a CIA contractor, Gary Nolan, I believe. Here's the problem. Where it goes on to say, you have someone now under contract with the CIA doing academic research to prove UAP contact events lead to these horrible injuries. They can. When we found this document from Jacques Vallée talking about how they were staging alien contact events by the CIA for psychological value, about harmful they were. All right, follow me to subscribe to your career. You know what? Which one is this on? Because I have that. That's in podcast 3. So which site? This is the one right here. Let's go here. This is episode 3.
All right. Welcome to episode 3 of the Dr. Stephen Greer podcast. Dr. Greer, it's very good to connect with you today. Lots of exciting stuff happening. How are you doing?
Before we get into this, I need to take a leak real quick. So everybody, get something to drink, get a snack, get comfortable. We're going to get into this. I don't know if it was in this one or if it was part 1, part 2, or whatever. I think it was probably this one. We're going to get into this stuff. I have a lot of videos to get into stuff like that. I mean, thing is, everybody needs to get their own intelligence. Do their own intelligence. Get reporting. If you can. If you know any people in the military, if you're lucky enough to ever know anybody inside and talk about UFOs, if they know stuff, do your own research. Form your own opinions. Because there's a lot of splinter groups, tribalism in the UFO community. Everybody wants their own narrative, story, out there, pushed out there. I'm not saying he's a liar. I'm just saying it from the stuff that I know. For the decades of stuff that I've been around, some of the stuff, and people I know of and stuff like that. I also need to blow my nose so everybody gets down, get a drink, and I need to use the bathroom. I need to take a leak. Yeah. If anybody finds you get on these sucker things here, complaints with the audio, let me know. Leave a like, leave a comment, or whatever. Let's see. I looked at this, so I don't know if this is the right podcast or what. Now, for what I do know, we do use electricity, refined electricity, stuff like that. Electric and nuclear stuff like that. I remember there was a report that one of these vehicles that we're using had the power of 2 nuclear power plants. I forgot exactly if that was one of ours. I think that's one of ours or one of theirs. It had to be one of ours, yeah. And a nuclear power plant can power up to 25,000 to 50,000 households. Maybe more or less. So you have that just one vehicle. You have millions of volts going and stuff like that of electrical nuclear power. And we use different propulsion devices and energy for different vehicles. It's not all the same kind. Every time we can use, of course, the ET tech as well.
Oh, I'm doing all right. It's up most of the night dealing with some of the fallout from the tabloid show that came out last night. And so I want to just comment on this a little bit. Jake Barber and I have worked together, and I first met him about a year and a half, maybe 20 months ago. He's a special forces guy who is also embedded with a major aerospace company. I know what all those affiliations are. He did not disclose it. Now, the important part of what came out, if you take out all the other noise and the production itself on that News Nation show, is that he and a group of other people are beginning to put their toe in the water.
I gotta say, I don't think it's fair for him to call Ross Coulthart, that show, a tabloid one. Listen, I don't like some of the News Nation stuff myself. Ross Coulthart, he's just starting this stuff with UFOs. He's trying to make it mainstream. Everybody has to start out. Everybody has to break the ice. Everyone has to break the wall somewhere. It's just me.
Releasing information and what they've been involved with in retrieving extraterrestrial vehicles, or the pop culture now, or government acronym term now is NHI, non-human intelligence craft. And there is a great deal more than...
They always change the acronyms. They change the acronyms all the time. So you don't know that they're studying extraterrestrials, whether it's EBE, extraterrestrial biological entities, aliens, or non-human intelligence. They do this, or UFOs to UAPs. They do that. They changed the acronym of UFOs a lot. Why? Like I keep saying. So you don't know that they're investigating, so you don't know if they're having an active program. Until somebody comes out and says, hey, I caught this, I got this, I heard this, got this on paper. They changed the acronym.
What you saw in that episode. So the original plan, just to let people know what was originally thought to be done, and its evolution. Some may say devolution over the last few months, is that there was going to be a collection of all that hard evidence of these operations, the craft, the operators, the locations, et cetera, and so on. And that was going to be done anonymously. They were not going to reveal who they were for OPSEC's operational security reasons and their own safety, both legally and personally. As you saw in the show, people have been killed. He didn't go into details. I know the details, and there have been recent fatalities related to these operations.
A lot of people killed.
People trying to come forward. And we're at this inflection point where we need these people to come forward full Monty, right? However, the problem is the United States government is lagging in instituting the protections, the executive orders, the congressional bills to protect and to make a pathway out of these operations that have been run illegally, so that the people involved are not prosecuted. They have amnesty, they have physical protection, and there's a robust effort in law enforcement here and abroad to get these corrupt and illegal projects under control, which is a very heavy lift. There's a separate team that I'm advising is involved with that part of it. That's separate from Jake Barber and his whistleblower team. But I've introduced them, so they know each other. Now, the issue here becomes the commingling, and the whole title of this show really needs to be the disclosure mosaic. And I want to just unpack a little bit from a 35 years on into this perspective.
Side.
And as I started out in this, I made a lot of mistakes. We still make mistakes. We're human. We're fallible. And what happens is that, you know, when you have a piece here and a piece there, you're going to make an assessment based on the intelligence you have. But it's always never quite complete. Never quite complete. And so what we have to do, and what the Disclosure Project's been doing for a third of a century, is collecting all these little pieces from 1,000 points of information who are whistleblowers that I've debriefed and met with over the last third of a century, and try to put this picture, this mosaic together. Because what you'll find is that someone like Mr. Barber and his guys were read into a very specific operation, and even that operation, they had a specific task. And he will tell you this, and he was not read in to what was going on, for example, where those craft went, and then what happened to them. He knows, he's spoken to people, but his firsthand knowledge is very specific. So what I've had to do by connecting the dots of hundreds.
Yeah, they don't want special forces or contractors to know everything. So whatever part you have to do with off-world magic technologies, how do you call it, magic? And they don't want them knowing about everything because they know that's a danger to secrecy and them keeping everything secret. So they're the want someone like Barber. They're the want you to just do his job in that specific line, not knowing about all these other lines and other categories of non-human intelligence, EBE, alien stuff. They're the want to just stay with that. They don't need to know about all this other stuff. They don't.
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these type of whistleblowers over the decades. And you'll see this if you go to dpiarchive.com. There's 762 listed. Now, some of their names are redacted because they've not agreed to come forward like Jake Barber has and his guys. But what the bigger problem is, if you only have that slice of the picture, even if you've been an operator, a special forces operator in that world for decades or a couple decades, you're not going to necessarily know the whole mosaic. And so that's where you get into trouble. And that's where I've seen many of these whistleblowers, they get caught up in a media effort like this was, that then puts in spurious and unrelated material that actually is not useful and helpful. In fact, it is deleterious to the truth. And we're going to talk about that. You know, one thing about me, love me or hate me, I'm not running for the mayor of Crazy Town, ufology. I'm just going to lay it out there what the truth is, because my responsibility, see, I'm here in Washington right now because I have to go to some meetings with the incoming administration figures. And there's a higher responsibility to get the truth out there in a way that isn't harmful to the future human consciousness. So I just wanted to give you that concept that there's this big mosaic that we've created, but it isn't because I had one, let's call it deep throat source, like in Watergate, where they had a deep throat source that told them all about the skullduggery, the Watergate thing. No, this is too complex. It's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people like Mr. Barber.
There's a lot deeper than that.
And so that's what the Disclosure Project is. That's what we are. And so I have to work with many, many people who are starting out as they come out from behind the shadows. First of all, you could tell there's palpable fear there, and rightly so. Secondly, they can only speak to what they know. And then if they fall into the, let's say, influence of people
Right.
who, for whatever reasons, might want to do a show on this, which I had advised specifically against, by the way, this particular avenue. But, you know, these guys are their own people and they have their own ideas, and they are not my employees. And we consult and we discuss and we have differences, and that's how humans are. So, but the problem is then you get into what kind of a capture is that? Now, I use the term capture for when something legitimate comes out and where there's academic capture on the subject, where there's undue influence to alter the results of a study. Famously, the Condon Committee in 1969 that closed Project Blue Book, the Air Force Project Blue Book, was closed through a CIA capture of Professor Condon and members of that committee
red book,
to give a
black book, and
predetermined
every other
outcome,
type of
meaning there's
book
nothing
there
to see
was.
here.
They had to
That is proven in CIA
color
documents
it
we have,
pink,
and they're in our
red,
archive.
blue, orange.
So this goes on in media. So there's media capture, there's academic capture, there's government capture, there's the capture and the gaslighting of members of Congress and of presidents. Now, I have personally witnessed all of this, and it's not a pretty story. It's always disheartening when it happens, but it certainly isn't unexpected. I hate that. Unfortunately, I'd like to say that this is new and shocking. It is not. It is de rigueur. I'll just say it's de rigueur. And let's talk about the media on this end. There are minor tabloid entities beginning to push into this that may well be set up as a cutout for intelligence operations to capture the information and then distort it or alter it or be sure that it's discredited. For example, we know from Bill Graham, who worked very closely with the National Enquirer, that the founder of the National Enquirer was in the CIA Psychological Warfare Programs Division, PSYOP.
Okay, when I was on Twitter X, not everything's clear. You see, on video, you get better context. You get better context and everything. So I'm glad I got this, the video on here.
And he
so
was set up and
context.
sent out from the CIA, and also funded by some mafia money to start the National Enquirer. This is all a matter of record. And they were the media outlet that UFO-related disclosures, even legitimate material, was sent to, because the tabloid, the National Enquirer, was so discredited as a credible news source that it's, by associating the subject with the National Enquirer, it was intrinsically defamed. It was neutralized that way. So you have to understand how these games were played, and I just wanted to give.
Well, the thing with the Enquirer in UK tabloids, American tabloids, or other countries, they're tabloids all around the world. You know, and they put their spin on stuff, on UFOs and ETs, and they do it mockingly. They do it as a joke. They put out as misinformation. They do that on purpose so that people that have had real UFO experiences, and to put the reality of UFOs, to make it look like the real thing look insane. People like us to look insane, like we belong in a mental institution. And so it's disinformation, a smear campaign that these tabloids run, or tabloid shows. I say TMZ is a tabloid show and stuff like that. That's tabloid journalism. That's TMZ right there, which I don't watch whatsoever.
That perspective historically. Now, in this particular instance, what's very important is that there's a group of whistleblowers who have worked directly on these retrieval programs and in other areas. And for example, that particular footage of this egg-shaped object, which they are saying is non-human extraterrestrial. We know that there
The hen laid the egg.
definitely small extraterrestrial life forms that are on the order of a couple to 3.5 feet tall that travel in these very pearlescent.
Right.
It's not just white paint. When you said pearlescent craft, it's a very unusual material, and they're not very big, 20, 25 feet across. But if you're only 3
just
feet
that
tall
color,
or
different
something,
colors too.
that's a nice. It'd be like me being in a 40-foot diameter disc because I'm 6'4". So I think that we know that is a type of NHI craft or ET craft. Now, where it gets a little confusing is that in the show, they said this is like the one captured by the Navy pilots that was white. But see, this is the lack of research and knowledge by the producers. That craft was from the Lockheed Skunk Works and man-made.
Yeah, because there's
so remember, you're going to have craft that are non-human, and then there are the copycats, the facsimiles. And those have been created on purpose because they can engage in deceptive operations or false flag operations with those man-made craft.
I'm so glad I went to this video because that stuff on Twitter got me to different areas I need to get into so much as with the video. It's making sense.
Indistinguishable at this point from a non-human NHI ET craft. So I'm giving all of you this information as perspective as we go through and unpack what was on that particular show.
I'm glad
and some of the other misinformation in there. That's a key one. And anyone astute who knows the material, people like Michael Schratt and others that have studied the man-made retrievals versus the extraterrestrial ones. And just as Jake said, often you'll be on a retrieval of an advanced technology, anti-grav out of the Lockheed Skunk Works or Northrop Grumman or Raytheon. And when those go bad and they have malfunctions, there is a team that's identical to the team that goes out and gets the ET ones. Because they're both at that level of classification, the Delta Force guys and these Special Forces guys. And I've debriefed many, many of them, like Jake Barber. And in fact, recently we have a witness who was going to come forward last year, year before in 2023 at our National Press Club event, who was on a retrieval team in a different area from where Jake is operating, but in the northern Nevada test range. And you can go in our archive and see that.
I was right. Yeah. So me knowing different teams, at least 4, there's got to be, could possibly have 120.
He was going to come to Congress and also to Aero, but he was threatened by these folks who wanted him to be quiet, and they had embedded child pornography on his phone and on his computers and said, "We'll put you in prison for the rest of your life if you take one more step forward."
I believe that. They would.
So
they would.
That happens all the time also. Now, that should be something where the people doing that are arrested for witness intimidation, because these people are coming forward exposing a criminal operation.
They should be hanged.
In other words, those operations that...
You do that, put as a sex offender status, they should be hanged or executed. That's just me. That's too far. I can believe the government does that. They've killed people to shut them up and everything.
And he won't
personally,
say
I know
because he's being told not to. I will. That Mr. Barber
that's worth
is absolutely unknown and unsupervised by the president and the Congress and are a priori criminal enterprises. This can be proven in any court. Now, what that means is,
this is why I hate the
government.
Until
the U.S. government has enough of a intelligence briefing and a focus to fix that, these courageous men, and I know Jake is a brother and he's a friend, Jake Barber, and these guys are really at risk because the U.S. government, the Congress, and the White House have failed to advance what we recommended to President Bill Clinton. You can see this in our archive, in 1994
Yeah.
and 1995. It's making progress. I've seen drafts of executive orders doing what we're asking for that are on the desk now.
Yeah, I've
Frankly,
seen
I've
those
seen them.
too.
I won't say how I got them or where I got them from.
I had a lot of stuff. I lost my house. That stuff got lost. I see those presidential orders
They're
too.
real.
I've seen it.
And
I've seen it.
so there's great progress. But
They are.
within the
They're real.
current, let's say the current state of the art on this, these guys are coming forward very cautiously because originally they were just going to give everything to us. We were going to put it out there on blockchain and it would have been done. But when they decided to come out personally, then it's personal. And let me talk to you about that. You have families. I mean, I have 4 children, 12 grandchildren, a wife. You have friends. You have, your own freedom at risk. I've been threatened. I mean, Lou Elizondo has openly called me a terrorist and a traitor for doing what I'm doing. I mean, that's on the public record, by the way. So you have these people who are very slick disinformation operatives who can intimidate people or capture them and move them in ill-advised directions. Now, whenever a new person comes forward, one of my institutional frustrations is that I've seen this, it's like wash, rinse, repeat, wash, rinse, repeat 1,000 times, where people have started to come forward and they get diverted into some fiasco, like a tabloid show.
It's just so fucking sick and disgusting how tribal people can be from the inside. I can never have a sit down with any of these guys because it doesn't make no fucking sense. Know stuff. So it's about our own experiences. But we can't come together or something like that and have barbecue or something. It's insanity. This is the biggest insanity.
Or what have you. So that's something that I advise against. But again, I don't control what these folks do. I can advise, and then they're going to do what they're going to do. Now, ultimately, we all learn from the school of hard knocks.
Right.
And I'm always getting caught in situations because of who I am. And every time I think I've learned every lesson, there's a new lesson that comes along that knocks me in the head. So that's just the nature of life on Earth. Unless you're the supreme being, you don't know everything. I don't. No one does. You're going to make mistakes. But the good news on all this is that while there's a lot of controversy about that egg, and by the way, that was not his footage. Another person at a similar operation, which is corroborative, who hasn't come forward, sent that in. This is important.
This is the thing. Is that I don't think I said that. I said in the video, is that it? Is that thing? There it is right there. Thing is, this is not a silver object
Some people
or
say-
whatever. And I do know, let me get this off. Nobody needs that glare. Is that if they show the ET UFO, the real UFO alien craft, they need to get 25 years of prison time, federal offense, add charges for any other. So he had to watch his ass and what was allowed to be put on there. To me, this does not look ET because it's white. It looks human. It does. But it'd be a solid sphere. I can't see too well with this. It almost looks like it's off, but it looks like there's some marks. There's something here. Looks like there's something right here. I didn't say that in the video. I just wanted to go with it and everything. But thing is, ET craft does have different. There are different ET races. They use different types of craft. So I don't know all the things we do different, but usually it's like a silvery metallic. If you've seen UFO craft, ET craft before, where it's shaped like an egg, or if it's shaped like saucer, you're going to see where it's usually metallic. This looks human, more human drone. This is like a drone technology that we have and that we use. Me personally, I did not say that in the last video, and I should have. I just went with it and everything.
No,
I get
because you have
super
multiple
excited.
operators who've been in projects where they have retrieved virtually the identical type NHI craft at separate locations and times. Now that person has not unmasked themselves. So I'm just
It looks
saying,
like a
I
real
know a
egg.
great
That's
deal
what I call
more than
it.
I can talk about on this podcast because of confidences I keep, which I'm not thrilled about, honestly, but this is the world I reside in. Just like I'm not going to talk about who I'm going to meet with here in Washington until those people are out of office. And it's just a gentleman's agreement, and it's decency and ethics. But the really
security.
big news also
they could be killed
is
too.
that he confirmed that not only are these operations ongoing, but that it involves multiple sites, and that it involves a very advanced technique for bringing these craft down. And I want to talk about this. He talked about psionics, and I when he first described that program to me, I already knew it existed. Everybody's heard of the CIA remote viewing program. But what people didn't know about is that they had taken the concepts of Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, the CE5 Contact. You can go get the app, you'll see what it is, that trains people to be peaceful ambassadors to these civilizations, right? And they took it, and back some years ago, before Mr. Barber was involved, began programs using electronics and drugs and other techniques to get these what are called P3 operators, these psionic operators, to be able to use consciousness to interface with the trans-dimensional electronic systems that are part of the guidance and control systems of these non-human spacecraft. And they succeeded. Now, he has told me, and others have told me, most people in those programs end up being killed or dying because of the rigor of it, or end up in a coma. But the ones that survive can be very, very accurate. But what they're doing, they're using a consciousness matter interface, sort of like a supercharged.
The thing is, the rigors of the human body takes a lot of energy on the physical body, not the soul, which we're not human. We're much more human. If you had near-death experiences, like I had, and how we are really energy, electromagnetic energy in a way, we can do just about anything. We can fly, we can go in and out of space, we can teleport through space, Earth, around space, heaven, other dimensions. We could do that. We have the power to do that. The human body, however, and I don't know about all this stuff, but I just say, the human body cannot handle as much as other beings can. And I bet that even other beings, there's a certain amount that they can handle as well with some of these abilities. I could be wrong, but I just say the human body, there's only so much input, output with energy. Like, especially since we're not really trained to do that, where with them, that's second-hand nature. This is new to
version of what
humans.
Elon Musk wants to do with Neuralink,
So,
but through non-locality of consciousness, through the consciousness
Stupid
field,
Neuralink.
which has been very.
I gotta say, leave a comment, leave a like, and stuff like that. Really help. Appreciate it. Tell me what you think with all this. I want to hear what other people have to say as well. But I'm glad I have this video on here to get real context, because I think I took some that was on Twitter out of context and everything. And we all have our views of what we know and our experiences. It's just I don't have these people here with me. We have to do a video, and we all have to learn from this. We have a lot to learn about the reality of psychic abilities, telepathy, and how we communicate
very well documented
outside
and proven.
Stuff like
if you
that.
don't know about that, go after this podcast to see Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, the movie. And it's on YouTube and elsewhere, and it'll blow your mind. So those programs, instead of using that technology, let's call it consciousness technology interface sciences, for peaceful contact, which is what Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind,
I would call it magic.
It's been used as a weapon system. It's 180 degrees opposite of what we're doing.
It's beyond technology, really.
Because this is getting confirmed now by some special forces gentlemen, what we'll then do is advise, all right, this is what's possible, but instead of doing it to capture these craft, or as they say, summon them, we don't summon ET craft or NHI craft, we invite them. It's a diplomatic protocol. It's not a forced military invasive effort. So the consciousness behind it is totally 180 degrees different from these programs that have been used to capture these craft and bring them down, take control. Basically, you're hijacking the control systems of these craft, bringing them within range, and then hitting them with an electromagnetic pulse weapon and a scalar weapon that then causes them to crash or come down. Sometimes in a controlled descent, so they're intact. Sometimes they crash into smithereens. So I know all the details of this, all right?
Dr. Greer,
yeah.
How could a super advanced ETI step into this trap?
Oh, great question. Here's the reason why. I remember when I was asked back in the early 90s by some Clinton folks, if they're that advanced,
because they can kill us,
tricked them and done this. I said, because they're not gods. They're people. They make mistakes. Now, what is our kill rate? Kill rate meaning out of attempts to kill them, how often does it happen? It's very, very low. The one of the sites I was at in Jake Barber's,
this still doesn't make no sense.
He said, well, this one.
It makes no sense, though. I'm sorry, it makes no fucking. Okay, me. I don't trust anybody. I know backstabbers. I know the worst types of people in my life. I've been around the worst. I've been to jail. I've known people that have done the worst crimes people could think of and stuff like that. I've been around the best kinds of people too. Holy, God-fearing people. But I don't trust nobody, which is a bad thing as well. But if I'm going to planet Earth, and I know all the violence that humans are capable of, how backstabbing humans are, how they steal and everything, and a lot of these aliens do know that. ETs know that. They see our wars, they see animal on animal violence, they see human on human violence. They come here as tourists. That could be it. If they're here as tourists, which I believe, a good amount here do come here as tourists, or you have juvenile ETs or whatever, which I make jokes about sometimes. They fall into this trap. This is where this argument comes in. Then I can see that kind of happening. It's like you see a cute bear. It's like he would see a cute bear or bear cubs lion comes, you want to go, you want to pet it. Or you get signals like, come on down here. I can see that. But
on site, we bring down 1 or 2 a year. But there are a lot more than that that are embedded within trans-dimensional space-time that are around the Earth. So it isn't as if it's like an everyday occurrence, but it means that, let's say that you have a small craft like that, there are 3 or 4 ETs or NHI people, EBINs, they used to be called, extraterrestrial biological entities.
They're accidental tourists.
They're asleep at the wheel. But something happens where they take their eyes or minds off what's going on, and they're in sort of a rest mode, and boom, in comes this invasive signal that is a combination of conscious thought with very advanced technology in the quantum entangled universe. We're going to need to do multiple podcasts on this for people to get their minds around it. But that is the foundation of the CE5 contact initiatives, which is Jake Barber and his...
Don't trust humans. God, we look evil, don't we? I mean, there's bad ETs. But let's be honest. ETs see us as one race, which we are. There's different colors. The humans need to get off this bullshit different race and stuff like that. We're just one race. That's really what we are. They see us as one race.
People very much want to validate to the public that this is based on real science. This is based on real events. And if you look at the movie, you'll see that. I mean, we've had up close and personal meetings with ETs that teleport in right near in our circle of doing CE5. You'll see the pictures of them in the movie. Now, this has been known in the intelligence community since I first started this project publicly in 1990. I will say this. A big reason why General Stubblebine and those guys who had been involved in all the skullduggery dealing with remote viewing and UFOs and stuff, they offered me $2 billion in 1990 if I would defect from what my purpose was and join their team. And it was a serious offer. And people go, you've got to be kidding. I said, no, but this is why. They knew that we had figured out the Rosetta Stone of how to contact. And they wanted someone who was a medical doctor with knowledge of the brain and the body, and also had mastered these consciousness techniques to be on their team, right? Not on the team of peace. So that's true. And I chose peace.
This is one reason why there is tribalism in people on the inside of the UFO community. This is what I don't like. There seems to be people, even a couple whistleblowers, they want to keep certain things secret for military. Those are people you can't trust that want this secret for military, you know, say, hey, we need this because of foreign adversaries, stuff like that. Immediately, I don't trust them. Because they're part of the military complex, or they want to keep it secret for national security. The Chinese and the Russians know all this. They have their own re-engineered technology. They know where all these top secret sites are. It's about keeping the public dumb and dumber. Keeping us as cavemen, as women. They want us to be nothing but monkeys. They want all this stuff to themselves, and they're part of politicians, they're psychopaths, and want to make money off of this stuff, off of these military applications, and keep wars going forever. I don't trust you. There's a reason why I don't trust anybody as much, except for what I know or what I think I know. We have to be discernful. We have, there's discerning and mindful all these people that of whistleblowers and people come from the inside. This information, how they want to spin it, how they want it for their own agenda. And it's sick and disgusting, really.
And not the military approach. But people who are stuck in these black projects, they don't have a choice. They're going, this is what we're going to do, and and they go, yes, sir, right? So what we have to do also for these P3 operators, psionic operators, and this is what we're doing. The men that you saw gathered around Jake Barber, we took them and maybe another member of his team out to Joshua Tree to do a CE5 together.
I knew it.
I think it was in July of
I've been out over
ago.
there.
And so we're trying to.
There are different corridors between military installations. There's a reason why I don't name these areas too much. It's rare. But you around some of these installations, you put yourself in the center of this area, or this area, or that area changes. You're going to see stuff. You out by Catalina Island, you're going to see stuff. You're out in the Pacific, off Vandenberg, you're around Hawaii, around military installations, stuff like that. You eventually see stuff. Joshua Tree,
model this, but then instead of doing it in an aggressive way, and of course there's still some learning to be done on his team. We don't summon them. They're not called in like a valet for the Earl of Downton Abbey or something. They're not just summoned. We do it as an invitational, but with the caveat: appear in any way that is shape that is safe and appropriate for this time and place, and we tell them that the Earth is an armed camp with advanced weapon systems that will target them. Now let me pivot to one other thing that was a huge mistake in the show. They were talking about when they were doing this, and there was an egg-shaped craft that came in, there was a dogfight, one of them said, with another craft. No, those weren't two NHI craft. It was an ET craft and a man.
I thought so. I thought so. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with that myself. I just knew it. My mind's eye is either ET stopping under ET craft, because sometimes they do fight with each other. Some also told me this is probably one of our military vehicles saying stop. Do not let a civilian, don't let a civilian do this. We have a very evil government where they do not want the citizens to be able to learn to have access to psychic abilities, telepathy, and these magic. The magic tech. It's not tech, I just call it magic. I just say it's to go off-world. Don't trust the government. Never trust the government, because they want it for their own agenda and stuff.
Man made one, a disc, out of the Lockheed Skunk Works that was deployed to intercept it and knock it down. So this is absolutely true. Now, people who've been on my team, like Raven and others for 25, 30 years, if I've seen that once, I've seen that 1,000 times, where we have vectored in and invited a craft to come in and boom, conventional aircraft, but also these weird.
My biggest thing is, why haven't other ETs come in and killed off these stupid humans from Lockheed, Skunk Works, Raytheon, Psych, SAIC, and said, stop your bullshit, we're just going to kill you guys, taking our people. Because they could do that.
man-made UFOs, UAPs come in.
I mean, if people did that to mine, I'd want to go and kill them and say, you give us our people back or we're going to go and kill you. That's what I would.
And then that object, because we've alerted them this could happen, vanish. They dematerialize. So we've seen this thousands of times, literally, over the last 35 times, where we have vectored in and invited a craft to come in and foop, conventional aircraft, but also these weird man-made UFOs, UAPs come in, and then that object, because we've alerted them this could happen, vanish. They dematerialize. So we've seen this thousands of times, literally, over the last 35 years. So I think that there is also a learning curve for them to understand that you have multiple things going on at once. You have the human dimension, you have the non-human extraterrestrial craft and people, and then you have this dark operation that needs to be stood down immediately. This is in the executive order recommendations, where those weapon systems are turned down and off, and we pivot to a more diplomatic approach officially from the U.S. government, but also from governments around the world. And I'm advising people who are leaders in other countries that we're at that point where we need to come together as a people, as one world people, peacefully, and make contact with these civilizations for dialogue and for cultural exchange and for peaceful advancement of humanity as we become an interplanetary civilization. So that's where we need to take that sword of these psionic operators and turn it into that plowshare. But I just wanted to unpack some of the nuances that were kind of mushed together in the show and unpack it and provide some clarity. The purpose of this podcast is going to be, because this is going to pick up steam now. They've dropped one little bit of evidence and these guys' story, but it's going to keep rolling. I know what the plan is here. And what we're going to need to do each time that happens, they're going to be the echo chamber of the UFO community and the media, and particularly the lower end media, that will misinterpret things, distort things, or deliberately distort things. And in this case, in this show, I don't know if it was just lack of knowledge and research on the part of the producers, or if it was a deliberate act of misinformation. It could be both. And I don't know, because I wasn't involved in that production at all whatsoever. In fact, I advised against it. But nevertheless, that's where we are. Now, what I think looking forward, and I'm always forward looking, is that footage of the retrieval of that egg-shaped craft, I know is the tip of a very big iceberg that's sitting there in a secure area.
It is.
Again, the original plan is that we were going to get that and push it all the way out through every celebrity network, every podcast, the U.S. government, everything. But because they wanted to come forward personally to attribute it, they then started to ratchet it down to sort of a slow trickle, and then see, and this is what I've been told, see what the U.S. government does, see what the media does, see what the public does. And so they're sort of like sending up trial balloons, if you know what I mean, where you send up a trial balloon and see what's going to happen.
Well, the way that I disseminate it and stuff like that is that even though I know it could be man-made, it's about getting the story out there. Is that even though that could be man-made, or if it's ET, I already know that we're doing this with ET craft or that. It's about the people in knowledge and that they know what's going on. That's just me personally, is that, there are people that have much bigger audience than I ever had, even though I know this since I was for 40 years. So, I mean, for me, it's just to get it out there. And I don't know, think about celebrities. I don't like celebrities really. I don't. Anyway, I shouldn't say that. The celebrities that I know, I love personally. I know that. All right, that's different. But I'm talking about Hollywood. because those people I actually look down to and stuff like that. I don't give any credence or anything. Nobody should. But
That happen. See if it gets struck down. So I think for them, the group of people, and it's not just Jake Barber and the guys you saw, it's other people, are looking at that. Now, the best way...
Is that a sound strategy, Dr. Greer?
I'm sorry?
Is that a sound strategy?
It's not what I advise. And it isn't what some leaders in Europe and here in the United States who are very highly placed would have wanted to see. But this isn't my call. I mean, and I'm not the one who could be arrested or killed because I've been embedded in a very sensitive operation. So I don't judge that. But I'm very direct and honest. I'd say, no, I would absolutely not do it that way. I think it's the most dangerous way to do it. And I think it's not effective because if you really want to move the needle.
The other part of the argument is like, whether it's his way of putting information out or News Nation or whatever, it needs to be put out. I think if it was done his way, he wanted to do it in a mass. He wanted to do it with the powerful elite type of way, mass. The thing is, timing and everything. Well, how long would it have taken for his side to get it all out versus News Nation that had all the stuff in place first? It just went boom, put it out there. It goes all over the internet. His way would have taken more time. But it would have gone out much bigger way. It would have exploded, I guess. And everybody, has to wait. And for me, if you're worried about getting killed so much, you're going to say, F it, let's just get it out now. That way my story is out. This is what I know. I'm not going to wait for Steve Greer. I'm not going to wait for him and his side to get that done. Because then my story isn't going to get out. I'd be dead. This nation is ready. They're going to get it out. I want to get my story out. If I'm worried about being killed, which she does have to worry about. You say I have to go to News Nation, just get it out there. Though it's out there, if I'm dead, it's out there. He could have done it because of that.
You need more than a few seconds of a spherical egg or an egg-shaped object starting to be moved underneath a helicopter. You need multiple corroborating people. You need to know the location. You need to unmask the operation. You need to unmask the corporate name because I know what they are. I know which corporation he's associated with and what they were doing. Those hard drives, those tough books that went missing, I know exactly what those were, what corporation they were lost from, and what's on them. Okay, a pretty good idea what's on them. Now, so I think that,
Can you tell us?
Yeah, well, it was very detailed information about these operations dealing with NHI and man-made craft at these test ranges that he was assigned to, right? And I've been over both of this.
But you're talking about different psychic groups being at war in this country, fighting each other for this, willing to kill each other for this information. Which means we don't have a real country together. We don't have a real country together. We have infighting, people trying to kill each other in the government over this. This goes beyond law enforcement. It makes it look at everything that's like pansies and sissies and everything. This is a lot bigger than anybody thinks. Because you're using remote viewers, psychics to locate these hard drives, tough books, stuff like that.
Test ranges that he works out of, out in the high desert out west. So
I
again,
know those.
I've been over these facilities. I've known about them. What's interesting, he noted that in our archive, we had photos and information about both these facilities back in about 1994, 95. So before he was, I think he was still maybe in high school or just starting his career in the Air Force when we had already been read in on that. So you kind of go full circle here. But on the other hand, it's a very big step forward to have someone who's actually been an operator on the retrieval teams. Now, one other huge mistake that's been made, and this is the most damning one, the most dangerous, let me say, was the facile and incorrect association with personal injury and radiation with NHI craft. Let me be blunt. This is bullshit. All right. So I want to unpack that for people. An interstellar vehicle is not using a nuclear power plant. The ones that are using nuclear power plants are ours. They're human. And this is not.
This is where me and him have a big disagreement because alien technology could kill us as well. 47 crash, these are crashes. There's radiation coming off of these craft. We know this. Okay, it's in the classified, stuff that I've seen. Okay, it's in these papers and everything. Okay, Geiger counters, all this stuff went off crazy. That some people had radiation sickness, got cancer from these ET crashes and stuff like that. So me and him are obviously going to have huge, big difference with that. Now he was use the nuclear stuff, and we use electricity, we use different forms, waves, stuff like that.
In question. In fact, Lieutenant Colonel Heckert, who is one of our disclosure witnesses, was on an operation when an object that was a nuclear-powered satellite-type object decompensated and came down in a remote part of the Yukon in Canada, and he's told us all, and he was part of that operation, and they covered it up because it was nuclear, and the thing was hot. Now, of course, Jake Barber says, well, we weren't suited up that it was hot because, and if they knew it was radioactive, they would have told us. I hate to tell him, but ask all the Agent Orange victims from Vietnam if the command structure in these.
Like I said before on the Twitter thing, they don't care about you. They're talking about Gulf War syndrome in the oil fields and this other stuff, and stuff in that's Persian Gulf War. Then the Iraq War, where some radioactive stuff was found that people don't know about, that the Iraqis had, that Special Forces got sickness from. They don't care. They care about killing the enemy. They care about their own agenda getting done. They do not care about their troops. That's the means to an end. That's called what they say the greater good. It's for the country is how they'll spin it. Commanders will, generals and admirals. That's, they're spin it their own way. So
corporations and military really care if their frontline soldiers are harmed or not. I hate to be cynical, but here's a wake-up call. They don't give a damn. And if people get burned and killed and injured, to get it done now quickly,
this war,
they'll do it. So you have multiple, let me unpack
it's for the country.
You have multiple objects, both in space and in aircraft, that are nuclear, that we have, that are highly classified. Not just United States, but Russia and China. You have nuclear power plants on satellites that every once in a while go bad, and they come down and they lose their orbit and they come in. That's kept very secret to prevent the public from being outraged. It'd be a scandal because it's new. It's like a dirty bomb falling over some part of the world. Number two, we have had, and you can look this up, experimental craft, not anti-gravity, that are human, that are using nuclear power plants. And when those go bad and go wrong, it ain't pretty, right? Because it's nuclear, right? And then you also have the third and most bizarre category. And the great example of this, and go to the archive if you want, even as you're listening to me speak, if you have a dual screen, and look at the Cash Landrum case in Texas. And this happened decades ago, I believe in the 1980s. And this family, 5-year-old boy and his mom and I think his aunt were driving along a highway north of Houston. And suddenly this weird thing comes down, spewing all kinds of sparks and energy, and they didn't know it, radioactive waste. What was that? Well, we know from Air Force Office of Special Investigations source, Doty, that he was the principal investigator out of Kirkland Air Force Base at the time, but he was assigned that whole region in New Mexico, that was a man-piloted craft out of Area 51, Nellis, that was an ET craft that they could not figure out how to get the propulsion, the energy system to work. So they stupidly put on one of these portable nuclear plants. The portable nuclear plant malfunctioned, and it spewed this radioactive material on these poor victims. And I might say, to this day, in a trajectory from that area of Texas north of Houston all the way to Fort Hood, it was spewing this stuff. So people who are in the fallout zone of that are still probably living on radioactive material. This is a big problem.
I can hear the people on X right now saying, "Oh my God, Richard Doty! You're going to use Richard Doty as a source." So I want to put the question to you right now: why use Richard Doty as a source?
Well, look, he is a known disinformation person, but when we interviewed him, and you were there were certain things I knew enough about.
This is the thing: people that put out misinformation also use real events as well. There's a bit of truth that disinformation officers will use and stuff like that, because people ain't gonna believe it if it's all lies. They're gonna know that, unless there's plenty of idiots that sometimes do. But you have to inject some truth, some realism, some real stuff in there to spin it and stuff like that. Whether this craft or this story was alien or human, I mean, everyone has their views on it and stuff like that. But I mean, I know that we do have this re-engineered stuff and everything, and it goes haywire quite a bit and stuff. So
to get the correct answers from him. And I've heard that from other sources. He's not the only one. He's the only one that has said it on the record. So remember, for every person who says something like that on the record, I usually have 3, 5, 10 people who've been involved in projects where we have used these nuclear power plants on both things that look like UFOs, because we're trying to get them to work, aircraft, satellites. So this is not speculation. And then the question becomes, all right, if that has happened, and we can prove, it's a very well-proven medical case. Now, at the time, and until very recently, the UFO community could take that case and say, see, if you get contact with an NHI craft and the aliens, you're going to get burned. And this then brings me to this gentleman, Gary Nolan, who, interestingly, it was admitted in this show as a CIA contractor. And, of course, I discovered that the hard way about 10, 12 years ago, or 11 years ago, when he took the Atacama humanoid biological research and deliberately falsified it. And this can be proven, by the way. It's been proven by the top genetic genome sequencing people in the world that was completely done deliberately and properly, and was reported out as a deformed fetus. Now, I still don't know what the Atacama humanoid is. It's in our archive. You can go look at it. It most certainly was not a deformed fetus because it had growth plates of a 6-year-old in it, even though it was
That
only
isn't what a
6
deformed
inches long.
fetus looks like.
We don't know what
It's
it was.
not.
But here's the problem. You have someone now under
No,
contract with
deformed
CIA doing, quote, academic research to prove that UAP contact events leads to these horrible injuries. When we have, and you had found, this document from Jacques Vallée talking about how they were staging alien contact events by the CIA for their psychological warfare value about how harmful they were. So what's the agenda here? It's the agenda we exposed 30-some years ago. And that...
Again, this is where me and him are going to greatly differ because, yeah, so real ETs, yeah, there can be contamination. With ET vehicles, there can be contamination. There could be that, but that's what he
Carol
says.
Rosin said that Werner von Braun, who invented the rocket for Adolf Hitler, warned us of, and that they were going to try to create a specter of a threat from outer space. And the only way to do that is to falsely create evidence, or evidence that exists that the CIA and other operations have created, and then label it alien when it isn't. So they labeled the Cash Landrum thing alien when it was human error. They label many of the abductions as alien when it's been staged by covert programs. They label mutilations alien mutations.
Again,
and they're not.
Yeah.
We know who's doing it. We know how they're doing it. It has nothing to do with NHI extraterrestrial aliens. So
abductions do have to do with the aliens. They do.
The 50s, is going apace today. And one of the problems with people who are whistleblowers who have lived in the sort of world of a very highly classified project, they come out into the subject of UFOs in the general public, and suddenly whatever they say can get folded and mutilated and folded into that false narrative. It happened to Grush. It's happened to many other people. I mean, all the way back almost 24 years ago, when we had the first national press club that was seen by 800 million people with 22 whistleblowers at the National Press Club here in Washington, May 9th, 2001. So this spring it'll be a 24th anniversary. We had some of the people who had been at nuclear facilities where there had been these craft come in, and the famous case in Minot, North Dakota, where they took 18 intercontinental ballistic missiles offline. And of course, the people who were there told us they felt the ETs were saying, please don't blow up this beautiful planet. But if you're so crazy that you go to MAD, mutual assured destruction, which is our nuclear policy, one gets fired, they all get fired, and the whole world is gone, that we can intervene because we want peace and we want this civilization to continue. That's what they told me. Then you have someone, this Leslie Keene, come in, repackaged it, and went on a tour on CNN and everywhere else about the national security threat of the UFOs to our nuclear arsenal. Well, no. So you have one event, you have...
This is... We're not going to... I don't like to keep on saying it, but ETs aren't doing abductions. ETs could be a threat. There's good and bad ETs. That there are those that want, there to guide us and enlightenment, and there are evil ones. That's just the way that it is. He knows of the good ones. Okay? But say that humans get in bodysuits, just turn to 3 feet tall, 3.5 foot tall, do rapes on people, gather semen, all this stuff, and go through walls, go through glass, and stuff like that. he's sort of like teleportation field, Star Trek type of beaming up and down stuff. That's not human. Those are not humans. They're not. I do know that there's ETs and humans, contractors, doing these calculations and stuff like that. You're going to believe what they want.
Have these events, and you have the truth about what was behind them, and then you have the spinmeisters in the media who turn it into the alien invasion threat. This has been a 70-year plan. And so one of the key things I'm going to do with this podcast is when there is information that's legit. Jake Barber is a patriot. He's legit. He was there. And it gets folded in either through error or lack of knowledge, or, as I say about this subject, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. I don't know what went on with that production, but a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. So whether it's done by design and corruption, or whether it's done by just lack of enough knowledge, we have to clarify it, because the stakes are too high. Let me tell you what the stakes are here. This subject's going to come out now. And if it gets hijacked over and over again into these false narratives by nonsense, like contact with NHI UAPs, you're brain damaged and you're burned and this and that and the other thing.
Which does happen.
Who's going to want to do CE5 contact if that's true? And it isn't true. But number two, it's going to pivot the politicians and the U.S. government into a war footing or a threat, national security threat footing, when there shouldn't be. It needs to be rolled over into a peaceful paradigm of contact and open dialogue. So these sort of efforts to subtly turn and, of course, gaslight the general public who might see this material on a tabloid show or whatever, that is a very dangerous.
He's not. I'm not going to call Ross Coulthart a tabloid show. That's not right. Okay, he's trying to get this out there, and I'm not going to have bullshit from either side, from him or the other, saying different. Everybody has their own side. I have what I know, you have what you know. You have your opinion, I have what I know. It's not an opinion what I have. It's not. I don't care. It's just
shared, very frankly.
I don't care.
With Jake Barber and others that I'm working with, that when that happens, I will come out and clarify it. And I'm not trying to be obstreperous, or somebody once called me a rock that won't move. No, because there's a singular purpose here, and that is to create a pathway in the human future that's peaceful, that involves a new world of new technologies, but doesn't pivot us from the current state where we're blowing each other up in all these regional wars and conflicts and religious hatreds, and just replace that with interplanetary wars.
Religions need to be destroyed.
But the kind of disinformation and manipulation of folding the narrative from we're doing contact, but we're going to then bring them in and kill them, right? That's not CE5 contact. You want to know what CE5 contact is? There's an app. Go get it and practice it. You'll be astounded in what you see and experience. But also where, people have had contact with what? And I will tell you right now, the biggest secret that they keep sanitizing out of this narrative, because the test ranges where Jake Barber has been operational, their primary purpose is not to down ET craft. Is to test the man-made ones. He referred to rather obliquely, i.e. the aerospace companies' discs, triangles, and objects that are ours. I will tell you, absolutely, that is the big secret, not the extraterrestrial part of this. The big secret is that we have those technologies. They have been used illegally. They continue to be used illegally in everything from human trafficking to drug running to abducting and murdering people. Those operations have to be stood down, and stood down quickly. And that is the biggest part of the secret. Actually, the powers that be in these covert programs want everyone to believe that everything that goes bump in the night out there is alien, and it isn't. And that is part of the false flag. It is a key part of the deception, the grand deception.
It's government.
So I think that we're going to have to be very vigilant, those of us in the disclosure community and who are seeking
don't trust
the truth coming out in a way that redounds to a beautiful future, that creates a new world, as the ET said to Colonel Corso, and not let it get diverted into.
Colonel Corso was, of course, the guy, 47, infamous 1947 Roswell crash. I don't know exactly about that part. I've heard of some conversations that was how we touched dead ET. There's a part of the soul can reach out. It leaves a message, residual energy left by the dead or whatever, dying occupant. And that residual energy can have a message and stuff that is psychic or telepathic. So this is like a residual thing that happened.
To something that is a dystopian future of militaristic approach. Right now, there's a militaristic approach to the ETs that's been covert. It won't be an advancement and it won't be disclosure if it just becomes an overt, event where the governments of the world are.
I could see Trump not opening this up. Biggest reasons because of economic reasons, and it destroys the big three religions. Okay, Buddhism is the best. Taoism and stuff like that. It's more peaceful and stuff like that. But that because I believe Trump knows of the tribalism also involved with these UFO groups. And I bet he doesn't like the BS of these groups. Me, I just put it out. I just put, truth out. That's it. I hope there is a disclosure, but I'm not betting for it. If I was a bettor, if I was doing, some real high stakes betting, like sports teams, stuff like that. If somebody asked me, put a bet on this, yay, nay, I ain't gonna put on the side of disclosure. I wouldn't bet at all, but I just say
united around an alien threat, and that the only way they can bring peace on this planet is to create a war of the worlds. I mean, this is not progress, my friends. So that is what we have to avoid. And the very subtle psyops of weaving truth and what Jake was saying is the truth, and with a sort of a narrative that subtly moves and introduces the idea of you have contact with NHI, you're damaged. So, when the other thing I want to talk about that, he was talking about at one point in the show, this beautiful, almost spiritual experience he had when he was retrieving an 8-gon, like an octagonal shaped object, with some non-human intelligence associated with it. And that he has told me that story. He told me that story when I was with him in the chopper over these sites. And what was beautiful, it's a beautiful story. They go to a commercial break, and then they cut to where he's telling the story of picking up this crate, not the octagon, not the 8-gon, but this crate that was already boxed up. He had no idea what was in it when he got there. And that's what gave him radiation sickness and poisoning. What was in that crate? It was an NHI.
I don't believe that. I don't exactly believe that. It could be both.
Misguided.
It could be either one. The egg shaped, of course, the human one, that could do as well. But ET stuff could do it too. That's been out there.
Propulsion and energy system that went bad. and they were trying to keep that very, very, very secret. Now, he didn't see what was in that crate, but I have this institutional and disclosure project witnesses like Colonel Heckert and others that have described those sort of operations. So this is where you have to be able to create the mosaic. So I'm going to end kind of where I started here, is that we have to create this disclosure mosaic. And the disclosure mosaic has to take into account the totality of the intelligence and information that we've garnished and gathered from hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people like Mr. Barber. So I think that is really what the big task is for us at the Disclosure Project. And each time there's information that gets folded into disinformation or misinformation, we're going to need to clarify it. And I just accept that as the where things are right now. And I think it'll be like that for some time. I just want people who follow what we're doing. I don't think this is going to get any simpler. There'll be attempts to hijack.
But that's the thing. A lot of that's opinion, though. I know that ET craft is radioactive. Their energy could be contaminants, could give us burns, could give us, cancer. I know that. To say that all this that's false, and to say that it's all human is just BS. And to say that all this alien abductions is human, that's bull, that's BS. I know too many abductees. Too many. You talk about humans. Or us recruiting midgets. You know how crazy that sounds? Like a special operations force of midgets. To dress up as aliens, abduct humans, create hybrid ET human, race. Bullshit. Yeah, I'm wrong about what you're saying, but no. Either or else you're saying tall humans dressed up as ETs and they shrink, gradually shrink to 3.5, 3 foot humans. No.
Just like they've hijacked these ET craft to knock them down instead of doing peaceful CE5, there's constant attempt to hijack disclosure and bend it in the direction of conflict, false information, false narratives. And that's what we have to be vigilant of. And clearly, Gary Nolan doing things under contract from the CIA, at least, that's what the host of the show said. It should give people pause. When was the last time anyone in academia did anything on behalf of the CIA that wasn't some kind of skullduggery and psyop? I can't think of any case. So I think that, someone like that saying, well, yeah, we're studying all these terrible injuries due to the contacts with NHI and the aliens. No, they're not. They're documenting the harm and the damage that have been done to people like Jake Barber by human contact with human experimental craft where they've been injured or where they've been deliberately targeted for an.
It's unfortunate because there's no way that medium could ever have a sit together. It has to be like this instead. Oh God. Because this is what would happen. Well, we just end up cussing each other out or something. Or just leaving or cutting the stream short or whatever.
Abduction or a vivisection or a mutilation. So that is a very horse of a different color. But you can see that with the public not knowing what the human capabilities are, and this is a big liability right now in what is known here. I'm looking at the White House right here. The paucity, the shortage of information about all of this is a national security risk. It is a huge problem because this is going to come out. And if it comes out with that kind of narrative, we're going to be at World War III. It'll be mass panic. It'll be 1,000 times worse than 9/11 or COVID in terms of the missteps. And I have said it that bluntly to the incoming administration's senior people. Now, whether they'll listen, I don't know. My fate in life is to, I liken this to, Michael. It happened more than once, unfortunately. Someone comes in with a massive heart attack, and they don't like to be in hospitals. Who does? I mean, I didn't like it when I had all my trauma last year.
I've been in hospitals most of my life.
They say, well, I'm going to leave. Yeah. And you got a 12-lead EKG showing a massive heart attack in the left ventricles. It's called the widowmaker that actually kills you. I said, if you leave, you're going to die. They say, well, I'm going to be fine. I don't want to be here. Yeah. And they get up on you. You can't arrest them and hold them there forcibly. They get out, and I've had them drop dead.
They can't leave the hospital.
4 hours later, they're brought in code blue dead. Yeah. Now, my experience with this subject is that just as a medical doctor and an emergency and trauma guy, you can advise and you can say, here where the landmines are, they're going to blow you up. Doesn't mean they're going to listen. Now, if they listen, good. If they don't, that's on them. So all I can do and all any of us can do is the following. Please write to the incoming president. He's inaugurated in a few hours, tomorrow, Monday at noon, I believe, and to your 2 senators and to your representative in the House of Representatives. If you're in other countries, write to your leaders and your parliament members or whatever you have, and ask that they implement peaceful contact with these civilizations, but that they also implement the executive orders that we are recommending for witness protection, amnesty for these people, physical protection, and standing up a law enforcement effort here and abroad to bring to rein, to stand down these odious programs that are targeting ET craft and engaging in all this false flag operations, dealing with abductions and what have you. So the only way people are going to act is that this needs to become a crescendo that builds from the public. Many, many members of Congress have said, yeah, but we're not hearing from people on this. So take responsibility. I can't do.
Well, the thing is, they don't care what the public has to say that much. Politicians have their own agenda. They're getting their wallets. They're getting paid by special interest corporations. They're doing these black operations. Or they're getting money from these energy companies. They have stock in them. It's going to put them out of business. It's their money maker. So this is why we're doing this on the internet. Because you can't trust politicians. They have their own agenda. And it's to keep it a secret as well. And that's why we're doing this on the internet, to put out the truth and stuff like that. Because you can't trust politicians to do it, to have our backs and everything. We just hope that they put out the truth on the internet. But that's just the way that it is.
Do everything. My team can't do everything. Jake and his guys who are risking their lives, and they are genuinely courageous, wonderful patriots. They need your help. We need your help. So I would say we live in a democracy. Let's act like it. Now, we know that the democracy's been hollowed out, but maybe it's hollowed out because we, the people, aren't doing what we should be doing, right? We should be screaming from the rooftops to get this done properly. And I can't do it by myself, and a handful of people can't. The whistleblowers can't do it by themselves because they're coming from a milieu, an environment of a very specific.
Well, he's not the only one that's, for that disclosure and stuff like that and everything. And there's stuff that I know what he says is absolutely true. There's other stuff that's like BS to me. It's really sad. Because real abductees and stuff, what he's saying with victims of alien abduction is that he's making things worse for abductees by saying what is happening to them is not real, that is, PSYOP, black operations, special forces. It's not true. It's not true. It's saying that all these injuries and stuff like that is from human re-engineered crafts, etc. It's not true. And it's really fucked up in a lot of ways. Because this makes it difficult for truth to come out when people are at each other's throats sometimes. And there's all this tribalism with different UFO groups that there shouldn't be. It is what it is, however. It is stuff. And it makes it harder for people to know what's real and what isn't. When people are saying this is true and this is not true, and people are just going to have to do their own investigation and form their own opinions and form their own answers. Anyways, I think that's it. I think that's it for tonight. Y'all have a good night. Take care. Bless. Leave a comment. Leave a like.